Hello and welcome to Hearthcrafts. My name is Charlotte and this is my channel where I talk general rubbish about my chaotic crafty life. I live on the south coast of England with my 5 neurospicy children and crafting keeps me sane. Here we are sitting down to do the heritage crafts video. Now Eddie is actually going bananas right now because I've got various things out which have clearly got some animal scent on them. And he is just unable to cope. He's particularly interested in my traditional soap, which I've got to show you. He just knocked the camera stand, and my sheep's fleece. So I'm going to just really quickly show you my soap. I think that is what is driving him mad. Now, I apologise if there's any vegans or anyone like that watching this video. There aren't anything where animals would have been harmed, but there are some things which have been made from animal products, because this is a heritage craft video and that's how things were done. So just a quick brief thing for those who don't know. I volunteer in a 17th century village called Little Woodham in Hampshire. It is perpetually the year 1642, which anyone who has any interest in history will know that is the year that the English Civil War started. We don't actually talk about the Civil War because we are mere peasants. We are a village and we would not have had really an idea that there was a civil war, which actually started later in the year. We would have known that there was some rumblings between Parliament and the King. The information that we would have got would have been if we had gone to market and we heard sort of rumours in the market and things like that. But we would have been so busy in our day-to-day lives that actually things like that weren't massively on our radar. We were just trying to survive. So there isn't a massive amount about the Civil War. We do have soldiers come in and out. So other sort of reenactment groups will come and stay at the village, and there'll be soldiers and you know, things like that. So that's always really fun. And we do have a soldier in the village. So we know that there's something going on, but we don't make too much of a fuss about the Civil War actually at the village. We have at the end of the year, we have the 12th night celebrations, which was the traditional Christmas celebrations. It started on Christmas Day and it went right through for 12 days. It was a whole celebration. It wasn't just one day of Christmas. Eddie, he's got his face in my sheep's fleece bags. Eddie. So when we did it this year, we had a raffle and it was 17th century things that the villagers and members had made, and I won a soap. We have a soap maker and a candle maker at the village, and she had made lots of soap and I won some soap. So I'm going to show you that because that is what is driving Eddie bananas. So let's just get that soap out the way, shall we? Just to say, I've got it all around me, all of my stuff around me, so there's going to be lots of me leaning and bending over and going out of shot and things like that, so you're just going to have to bear with me. If I sound like I'm racing through this video as well, I'm trying really hard not to make it too long. There's a lot to go through. I'm not going to be doing any demonstrating of any of the things here. What this is, our village... Eddie! Our village opens on the 21st of March, so I need to, and I haven't touched the majority of this stuff since October, when our village closed to the public. So I need to go through it all. I need to make a list of what I need to make, what I need to buy, and what I need to learn before the village opens. On the 21st of March. Today is the 5th of March, so I'm running out of time here. So literally today, it's almost like a stock inventory. So we're going to go through all of the things that I've got, see what, because some of it I won't actually even need this year, likely. So yeah, we'll go through it, but there'll be no demonstrations of it today. What I was thinking I might do is make this a series of videos, and then I can sort of have future videos where I demonstrate each thing, as we go along. Anyway, let me show you the soap so that my dog can, and now he's barking. Right, soap. Oh my god. So this is what I won in the raffle and I love it so much. I'm sorry it's really crinkly because it's in grease-proof paper. I think the reason that this is driving Eddie bananas is because it's made with animal fat. But this is my block of traditional soap. How cool is that? I haven't actually used it yet. It doesn't really smell of anything. Just, yeah. But that is traditionally made 17th century soap. I'm not 100% sure what would have gone into it. I know that we collect up the ashes from the fires, because every house has an open fire. We collect the ashes and the soap maker comes along and takes those. So there is some sort of ashes in it possibly, and some animal fat. But I love it, and I am going to use it. They could use that for anything. That'd be for washing their bodies. They could use that for washing their clothes. Like that would have been used for everything that soap would have been required for. So yes, I absolutely love it, and I'm so glad that I won it. But I am going to put it away now because it's driving the dogs bananas. So bear with me. Soap gone. So hopefully they will be able to settle down now. The stool I'm sitting on is very creaky. I wasn't sure whether to stand or sit or what. Anyway, I'm sat and my stool is really creaky, so I apologise about that. So, my role within the village changes. You can literally change your character every time you go in if you want to. My name in the village is Mistress Dorothy. You don't have to change your name if your name is something that would have been in the 17th century. Obviously, we're a living history village, so everything needs to be perfect. So obviously Charlotte was a name that was around at the time, but it wouldn't have been a widely used name. It was around, but and also, why would you want to keep your own name? Some people do because it's just easier, but I kind of think it's quite fun having another name. My nan's name was Dorothy, so I am Mistress Dorothy at the village. I got involved in the village, so I went on a school trip. I went on a couple of school trips there when I was probably 8 and 9 years old, and I have memories of that village when I was young, and I remember seeing the dairy maids making butter. I remember one visit they had a village drunkard. There was a man running around with a tankard shouting ale, ale, and getting kicked out the ale house, and as a small child that was terrifying. I remember one time when I went, there was a gentleman that tried to buy my nan, because my nan and then once I'd been on a few school trips there, I was like, I need to go all the time. So I used to make my parents take me there. We took my dad and my nan came once, and there was a man that was trying to buy my nan to warm his bed, and another time there was the village Eddie, the village lunatic. So he was running around like pulling our ponytails and stuff like that. Just this bustling village that just absolutely blew me away. And actually, when I was a child, I genuinely thought that they lived there. I thought that was how they lived. They were there all the time, which makes me laugh now because that's probably what children think of me, that I actually lived there. To be fair, I wish I did. I absolutely love it. It's my happy place. I'm on the committee, so I'm very, very involved. And it's our 40th anniversary of opening this year. And it's a really special place. If you ever get the chance to visit Little Woodham in Hampshire, please do. We would love to have you. So my role in the village changes. When I first started, I was like, I want to be in the weaver's cottage. That's where I want to be. Eddie's knocking the stand again. We have a huge floor standing loom. It's one of the only working ones from the 17th century in the country, I believe. And I was just in awe of it because obviously wool and anything to do with fibre arts is my bag. So I absolutely loved it. And I was like absolutely sure that was where I was going to be. And actually I spent a good few months in there when I first started, and I learned all sorts of different things. But then we had to have the thatching redone on the weaver's cottage, so that was closed for a couple of months. And after that I decided to just change it up, and whatever house was empty I would fill it and I would make up a story. Sometimes I was a mother whose children and husband were out working in the fields and I was looking after the house. I've also done days in the ale house. So we have an ale house which is where It's not a pub. So I'm trying not to go too far into all of the history of it, because if I do, this video is going to be about 6 hours long. So each individual video I do, I will go into more of the history. But basically, an ale house, ale houses were very common because you didn't have to have a license to sell ale. You did to sell beer, because it was made in a very different way. But ale was our staple drink. We didn't drink the water because goodness knows what people were doing in the water. There was all sorts of horrible illnesses and disease in the water. So we drank ale. That was pretty much what we drank. And if you overbrewed and had too much, it would only keep for about 3 days. So then you could sell your remaining ale to other villagers or people passing through. So that's how ale houses came about. There's somewhere to sleep. We've got a sleeping loft. You can have an evening meal and you have ale. So in the ale house, the way that we do it is all of the villagers and members that are there that day, they get to come and eat in the ale house at dinner time. We don't have lunch. There was no such thing as lunch. It was breakfast, dinner, supper. So whoever is in the ale house cooks for the whole village on an open fire. I really enjoy it. The thing that we would mainly cook on the fire is pottage, which is basically like a soup, stew, vegetables. We're very much governed by, first of all, when we open the village, it'll be Lent, so there'll be no meat. There will be fish because I don't class fish as meat. There won't be an awful lot of dairy products because the hens won't have started laying properly yet. The animals only produce milk when they're, sort of having babies, which they won't be doing just yet. And vegetables were very, very seasonal. So we have to know all about what the vegetables would have been in season at that particular time. So there's a lot with the ale house. But I enjoy it. But what we normally do is cook like pies and things the night before and take those in, to have on the table to have with our pottage, and just cook the pottage fresh. But I want to change that, which I'll get into in a minute. I've also been like the village cunning woman. We have like a hovel up on the edge of the village. We don't really mention witches. Obviously witches and Pendle witch trials and all that kind of thing, and Salem witch trials, that was all around that time when the village was on. We get asked a lot about witches, and especially when you're the cunning woman up in the hovel, obviously you get called witch a lot. My personal feeling on that is I am really respectful of the women that lost their lives during that whole saga. Even before I was at the village, I researched the Pendle witches. Witches are my thing. On my bucket list is to go to Pendle Hill and pay my respects to the women who lost their lives through absolute absurdity. So when I am playing that character, I'm very respectful to that, and it has to be historically accurate. It's because being classed as a witch was terrifying, the idea of it, because you would lose your life. So there are lots of things, lots of things to bear in mind when you choose a role that you're going to play. But yeah, I absolutely love it. So going forward this season, I imagine that the majority of my time is going to be in the ale house, because there's a sort of handful of people who share the ale house duties, because obviously the ale house is one of the main buildings. It has to be manned every time we're open. And one of the people has decided that this year, she's our chairman, she's very busy, has a lot to do. She is absolutely phenomenal. And she's decided this year that she's going to spend a lot less time in kit, which is what we call it when we're dressed up, and a lot more behind the scenes. So that will be a big hit to the ale house. So I am stepping up. I am Mistress Dorothy, the ale housewife. But there's a lot to learn. There's a lot that I need to know. There's a lot that I need to get my head around. I want to go into the village at some point, if I can, and practice some recipes and some things to cook there that I can actually do. Because visitors love demonstrations. That's what they go there to see. They want to see how we do things, So yeah, so we'll get onto that. I'll do a whole section on the ale house and whatnot, a whole nother video on the ale house and preparing for that, making some recipes and what have you. So, okay, we're already 14 minutes in and I haven't showed you anything apart from the soap, which, by the way, I've put away now. The dogs have gone over there to go to sleep. So Okay, so let's start off. I'm just going to show you a couple of bits that aren't anything to do with my making or whatnot, but just some bits that you might find interesting, like my shoes, the shoes that I wear at the village. I've got these out because they need cleaning, so do excuse them. These are my 17th century shoes. Aren't they beautiful? They are handmade leather shoes, exactly how they would have been in the 17th century. They are very slippery. So you have to really watch your step because we haven't got any kind of paths or anything other than what's been trodden in really by people. There's lots of wet leaves. There's lots of stones and things. The amount of times that you see people in their kit going whoop because they've slipped. But yeah, these are my shoes. I love them. I'm really lucky because lots of people get blisters and things from these shoes, but I actually haven't. Mine have been super duper comfy. So yes, they are my shoes. The other thing is that I make a lot of I really enjoy doing this at home anyway. My washing machine's gone on to fast spin. I really apologise if you can hear that. I should really close the door. Let me close the door. Hopefully that's a bit better. It won't last long anyway. So yeah, I like to make like balms and particularly when I'm the cunning woman in the village or I play that kind of role. But then every housewife would have known how to make balms and tinctures and things to keep their family healthy, because especially people like us in the village, there's absolutely no way we would have been able to afford to go and see a doctor. So women had this wealth of knowledge about herbs and things that they could make to put on cuts, grazes, burns, you know, those kind of things. It was such a hands-on way of life that you had to know how to deal with these minor injuries. So I make things like this, which I absolutely love. They're not presented pretty because these are my ones that I actually use at home. So this, I made this myself. This is calendula balm. Calendula, see that? Calendula is a type of marigold, and I basically make this by putting calendula plants into an infusion of olive oil. I infuse that for a couple of hours. I then strain it and I add it to beeswax to give it like the balm sort of salve feel. And this is absolutely fantastic for the majority of skin conditions. Pete's got psoriasis really bad on his knees and elbows. He uses all sorts of creams that don't work. I made him a pot of this and now he doesn't use anything else, and this really completely stops his psoriasis. So absolutely fantastic. This is something that I've always got, and when I make up a batch of this, I make lots and lots of little pots, and then I'll take them to the village and I'll say help yourself, and they always go straight away. I've got a couple of other pots here which I didn't make. These were given to me in the village, so these were other ones that would have been really popular. So plantain balm. Plantain these days, you probably, if I said plantain to you, most people wouldn't know what the plantain plant looked like. But then if you saw a picture of it, you would think, oh my goodness, that's the weed that grows everywhere in the spring and summer on the side of roads. And honestly, Google the plantain plant and you will recognize it. And it was so important back in the 17th century. But these days, it's literally just a weed that we would just dig up out the ground and think nothing of. So there's my plantain balm. These are made by our wood turner in the village. Again, this is just something that most villagers would have had knowledge of how to do. And this is another one he gave me, which is willow and lavender. The plantain, it smells lovely. I love the smell of lavender. The plantain balm would have been good for things like burns, particularly. I'm not entirely sure what the willow and lavender would have been for, but because it's lavender, it would have had sleep properties. They would have used this if they were having trouble sleeping, or, you know, those kind of things. So that's just a couple of little things to show you. So let's move on to some crafty things, shall we? Lots of these things, and the reason that I wanted to get them out is because lots of these things have got things attached to them from last season which I need to take off to start again. Now, one thing that I won't be taking into the village with me this year, because this is actually a really expensive bit of kit, And I obviously used it a lot when I was in the Weaver's Cottage last year at the beginning, but this year I'm not going to be in the Weaver's Cottage. I wasn't in the last half of the year, but I left this in there for demonstration purposes. And one of the pieces has got broken, not necessarily at the village, but one has got broken. I really don't want anything else to get broken on it. They have a smaller version of this at the village, which we allow children and things to have a go at. So there's really no need for me to take this in, but there is something that I need to make on this before the village opens. So this, I'm hoping I can actually get this in. So this is my peg loom. This peg loom is absolutely ginormous. You can see here the peg that's broken. But that's fine. It doesn't matter. It's actually got cobwebs and village dirt all over it. But yeah, this is absolutely ginormous. I really did go very excessive when I bought this peg loom. The one that we've got at the village is probably about that big. And that's absolutely fine for most things that you use it for, which is, rugs and seat covers and things like that. The reason actually that I got such a ginormous one is because I wanted to make rugs. I haven't made any rugs on it yet. So I really need to get my bottoming gear and do that. But this is one of the best things that we can demonstrate, allow children to have a go at. Children absolutely love this. They will sit there for hours playing on this. So as you can see here, it has got something attached to it. So this is what we teach them to make. This is a seat cover. These are all kind of the threads that are normally hidden, but because this has obviously been sat for a while, you can see them all coming through. But basically you just weave fleece in and out, and then eventually when it's the size that you want it, you cut it off the loom and secure it, and then it kind of all, as you use it, it all felts up and makes like a cushioned seat cover. You can also, like with a loom this size, you could also make ones to kind of go over your bed at night because, obviously no central heating. You could also, if I'm wandering around the village and I've got my basket in my hand, I tend to put one over the top of my basket because where it's still got the lanolin in it, it is water repellent. So it's really good for keeping things dry. And yeah, they're just a really good, fun thing to make, and they're very quick and easy. I'm going to take that one off. I will fasten it off and use it. I'll put it in the village to be used because that's actually village fleece that's on there. But I want to make my own, which will come in and out of the which will come in and out of the village with me, and it will just be mine. I have fleece here to do that with, so I'm not entirely sure. I need to have a look what sheet is. Firelighters, very, very important. Not something they would have had in the 17th century, unfortunately for them, but we do. So we take firelighters in, which is a bit of a cheat, and we don't tell people that we take firelighters in, but they're all over the village, and I take my own in just in case. I have these fleeces here, which I bought randomly at a festival that I went to. The woman was selling peg looms with bags of fleece, and I said, can I just buy a bag of fleece off you without the peg loom? It's actually from her own sheet. Oh, it's got a card in here. Oh, there is no way that I can spell that. Right, anyway, so these are the people. It was at a Viking festival. I'll just let you read that. They are on Instagram, I know they are. And yeah, I bought all of this. This is from their own flock. Look at all these beautiful colours. So I've also got grey Ryland fleece as well. So I could put all three of those colours into a seat cushion and kind of stripe them, and they'll just look absolutely beautiful. This is my Ryland fleece, which I got from Unravel Festival. So yeah, I can make a really beautiful stripy seat cover out of those. So that is my intention with those, but I won't be taking the peg loom in this year. That will stay at home. The other loom that I have sat here behind me is one that Pete made me, and I absolutely love this. So this is a miniature copy version of the loom found in the Osberg burial Viking ship that they found in Norway, and there was one of the bodies there was buried with a lot of weaving and fibre arts craft related stuff, and there was a loom, huge loom. I think hers was a floor standing one, but I asked Pete to make me a little copy, and this is it, and I absolutely love it. So this is for tablet weaving. I love belt weaving. Belt weaving, I've got some examples here. I'm trying not to go off on tangents. Am I going off on tangents? I'm not entirely sure. Anywho, let's get my other basket, shall we? So all the ladies around the village, well, most of the ladies around the village will carry these around, which are sort of handmade baskets. And we use them as handbags. In here, you will find a phone underneath all the 17th century stuff, maybe a Kit Kat, and in my case, a can of Pepsi Max, all hidden underneath our 17th century crafts. Anyway, so let me show you some of my belts that I've woven. I normally have these out on display because there isn't a belt weaver there at the moment, and it's something that I can do. So, you know, you just come up with a backstory. So my backstory, regardless of what house I'm in, is usually that in order to earn a few extra coins, or to barter with. Bartering would have been a massive thing in our village as well, and in the villages surrounding us. Coin wasn't the be all and end all. You know, if you had somebody like the soap maker and I'd run out of soap, I could say to the soap maker, look, if I make you some beautiful belts to put around your hat or to hold up your hose, because we would have had to have tied our hose on because there was no elastic. Slow down. Then I could have, then that was how we would have come about things as well, is by bartering with people who had other skills. So this one is, I mean, these are not very good. Most of these, I can tell just by looking at most of these whether I've done these as demonstration or not, because if you look at my tension, it's all off all over the place, and the reason for that is normally because these are stop start belts which I'm demonstrating in front of the public. So that is definitely one that I was demonstrating in front of the public, but this was actually done on a rigid heddle. This isn't tablet weaving. Tablet weaving is basically cards, which I'll show you in here. You turn the cards, and depending on what way you turn the cards, you make patterns. That was still around kind of in the 17th century, although mainly people had gone on to heddle weaving, which I will show you in a minute. Tablet weaving was more the Viking era, and much earlier. It had just gone out of fashion by the 17th century, and heddle weaving for belts had come in. So that's why the majority of mine are on heddles, but I particularly do love tablet weaving. This was a tablet woven belt, and this is a Tudor rose pattern. So this was tablet woven, and this is wool. This is 100% hand spun wool that I've used for this, which I get from a lovely lady on Etsy, who most of my wool that I use for the village is from her. This is another rigid heddle one, and this was definitely a demonstration one because I remember doing it. Well, so look at that. So there are different ways that I will weave my belts. Like I said, I've got this loom here behind me. I've got you can either call it a box loom or a tape loom, which is another kind of loom, which I shall show you in a minute. My favourite way of weaving belts is backstrap, which basically means I attach one end to my waist, I attach the other end to like a tree or a pole or something, a window frame, whatever else, and I literally weave in between myself and whatever I'm attached to. That is actually my favourite way of weaving, and this was done backstrap weaving. Again, I will do demonstrations of this because I want to get more belts woven up for demonstration. This was backstrap. I haven't even finished this off, look. This was backstrap woven, and I did this at a show we went to. It's one of the only times of the year where we go outside of the village, and it's called Fernhurst Furnace, and it was an old iron mine, and we go there and we have a big tent and what have you, and this is what I did backstrap weaving that weekend that we were there to demonstrate backstrap weaving. This is made of cotton, so I don't tend to show this one at the village very much, but this is tablet weaving as well. It's made of mercerized cotton, so it's not appropriate for the village. We wouldn't have had cotton. This is just me messing about. I've got all sorts of random little bits of tablet weaving everywhere, and so's Pete at his house, because I just make them just because I enjoy the process. And then I don't really know what to do with them. So some of them aren't like the right colours or the right material, so I tend to just use them for other things. But yeah, so that's a little selection of my belts that I weave, and that is one of my favourite things to do. Now, the reason that I got the box loom, let me show you the box loom or tape loom, however you want to say it. That is actually not supposed to be in there. So this is what I use for my backstrap weaving. I literally, these hooks hook onto my belt or my apron, which I'm wearing at the time. These open up, and then you kind of tie it around there, close that, which gives you the tension. And then I'm attached to something else on the other side. So that's for my backstrap weaving. And you can see on here, well, there's the little bit that's broken off my peg loom. I found it. Right, so in here, this has got a warp on it. I was obviously in the middle of doing a tablet weave, a rigid heddle weave on here, and I am going to take this off because I don't really like it. I don't like it. Anyway, so this is the setup when I'm doing rigid heddle belt weaving on my tape loom. So you can see there, this is what I've done. And this is my rigid heddle here. And basically you pull it up to get one part, put it up to get one part of the pattern, push it down to get the other half. This is not my favourite loom to use. You can keep the tension by winding these up. I mean, it's a great little loom for demonstration purposes, but it's not my favourite. And it's not particularly historically accurate either, because it has these metal bits here, which it's not really, but it's fantastic. And it's great to demonstrate at the village. People love to watch the belt weaving. So I do try to do it as much as possible. But when I'm in the ale house, it's probably not what I would be doing to occupy my time. So a lot of my belt weaving this year is likely going to be done at home, not in the village. So shall we go through this basket? I dread to think what's actually in here. I don't know if I can move you down a little bit so you can see in my basket. Okay, so let's have a look. So this is Ryland wool. Now, I'm currently, for anyone who watches my normal videos, they will know that I am making Tudor hose at the moment out of Southdown wool. The two breeds of sheep that we would have mainly had in our village would have been Ryland and Southdown. This is the Ryland's natural colour. It's like a grey with some sort of browny flecks in it. The Tudor hose that I'm making, I'm doing on a 9-inch circular. Now, I would like to cast on another pair of hose with DPNs, because one thing that I absolutely love and that I spend most of my time doing at the village is knitting. So it'd be nice to actually knit. I tend to just, I think there's an example here, look. These are actually on my village DPNs. Here we go. So this is perfect. So this is what so I've got a little linen bag here, which I normally attach to my apron through the loops. And this has got a little ball of Shetland wool in it, as you can see. And I'm literally just knitting a tube, which I tell people is going to be hose, which it might very well be. I don't know. I haven't sized it. I hadn't read the pattern or anything by then. Also, with DPNs, we would have used 3 and then a 4th as like the one that we knit with. It wouldn't have been a square. We wouldn't have used 5. Most of the images that we find, they're using the triangle kind of 4 needle method. These DPNs, I've got one here. I don't actually know what size these are because I got them from a lady called Anne the Peddler. Isn't that a great name? So they are literally just metal DPNs. They don't have a size written on them. There isn't a size on her listing on her website. It literally just said knitting needles. So I got them and I use them and they work fine. This is hand spun wool, and this is kind of a sport weight, and they work fine for that. So I imagine they're around about a 2.25 or a 2.5. I need to measure them really. But these tend to be the ones that I use at the village. So that's my little knitting pouch. So that will definitely be coming to the village with me. I might take this off. And frog it, and then start one with my Ryland wool. So that I've actually got something that I'm properly making. We've got all sorts of foliage in here. I'm not entirely sure what that is even. Oh, that smells of the village. It smells of fire. Everything that comes back from the village smells of open fire. I have no idea why that's in here. I think I've probably just dumped that in here to get it out of the way. This is a white acrylic wool. That does not come to the village with me, so we can chuck that over there. Right, what else have I got in here? Oh, my coif. This is... Look, to prove that I haven't touched this since October, this is my linen coif that I wear on my head, and it has foliage and everything in it. Let me see if I can... I need to wash this. I have various different coifs. Let me see if I can stick this on. It won't fit properly because... Yeah, there it is. There's my coif. This one in particular, I have various different ones. This one makes me feel like a basset hound because it's got these long flappy bits here, and yeah, they flap about, and I feel like a basset hound. But I mean, obviously that looks nothing like it should do when I'm wearing it, but yeah, I need to wash that. Underneath that, my hair would be braided, and it would be okay. So this is one thing that I need to make. So I'm not going to actually write down the things that I need to make, because when I go back and edit this video, I can then make a list and write down what I need to make. But one thing I need to make is a cord to braid my hair. So you would braid a cord into your hair, into the plait, one end here and then one end in this braid, and then you basically take the ends of that cord, tie your braids up around your hair and secure it with that braid, and then put your coif on. So I need to make a braid. Now, there are two different ways that I could make a hair braid. So my lucette fork is one way that I could make a hair braid, or I could use finger looping. Finger looping is brilliant, and it's one of those things that you can demonstrate really easily, and the children love to have a go as well. So basically you have sort of 5 loops on your fingers, and you switch the loops around on your fingers and then pull it tight. And there's like this whole history with finger looping. You'd look at it and you'd think that's ridiculous. That's something a child would have come up with. But they had ladies. So these finger looping braids would have been really long because they would have used them to lace up corsets and things like that. They would have had like teams of 2 or 3 women working on these finger looping. One woman would be on one side, one woman on the other side. They'd swap over and then they'd walk away from each other, because when you're finger loop braiding, you're governed by the length of your arm span, because you have to kind of bring the loops out. So you can only go as long as your arms. So they would have 2 women so that they could make these long ones, and the women would walk. Yeah, I mean, it's just fascinating. Something that looks so simple and silly and childlike. And actually it was a massive industry, making finger loop braids. I've got some here. So this one is a finger loop braid that I made in 3 colours. And again, I literally just attach one end to like a windowsill, or we've got sort of wooden beams down our windows. Attach one to one side and then just stand there finger loop braiding, which is something that I can do in the ale house as well, because once everything's cleared up in the ale house, you have like a couple of hours at the end where you kind of just, you can sit and people come in and they ask you questions and stuff. But I always like to be doing some sort of craft while I'm sat there. So finger loop braiding is one of those that I can do, and they always come in super useful. But again, you are governed by the length of your arms. So I'm not sure how I will do that, but I definitely need to make a braid thing, a cord for my braids under my coif, and I need to wash my coif because that is horrible. What else have I got in here? So I've got this is a drop spindle. This is one of the ones, pretty sure this is one of the ones we sell in the village. We have drop spindle kits. Apologies if my angle or anything has changed. I just received a phone call that I had to take. So anyway, so yes, we do sell spindles for spinning in the village. And it is something that every single woman and child would have known how to do. It was the perfect way for women and girls to make a little bit of extra money. Obviously, they needed wool for pretty much everything that they made. That was the main material that would have been used, that and linen. So I will go into the history of spinning and facts about spinning and what have you in another video. There's just far too much of it to go through on this. But what I will say is I have another drop spindle, which I use. So this is my drop spindle that I use. I got this. This is handmade. I got this from a biking festival that I went to. It's really difficult with drop spindles because we wouldn't have had, most drop spindles these days have got like the hook on them. We wouldn't have had that. So ours haven't got any kind of, you know, metal hook on them whatsoever. This is just, I will need to take this off eventually. This is just me practicing. I am not very good at drop spindle yet. I have been practicing and I really enjoy it. It's really, really fun. I also want to learn to use a spinning wheel. Obviously I have dabbled. There's so many knowledgeable people at the village that can teach you, but when you're doing other things, like when I'm in the alehouse and stuff, I can't quickly pop off to the weaver's cottage to have a lesson on spinning. So it is something that I have to practice at home. This is just this is a Corriedale wool with a bit of nylon in it, which I got from a D-stash somewhere, and it's not appropriate for the village, but it's perfect for just practicing my drop spindling on. And again, this is something that I can be doing in the alehouse after everybody's eaten and everything's cleared up. I can just stand there spinning, which is perfect. So this is why I'm trying to practice to get good at this. So that is another thing that is on my list, is ongoing. Keep practicing your drop spindling for the village. So this is an example. This has still got its label on. So this is the hand spun yarn that I get from the lady in on Etsy. It's Shetland wool. I don't know if that's gonna focus. Shetland wool, and it's a sport weight. But I get whatever colours are appropriate to use at the village. So I've got blue, yellow, red. These are all tangled up. I don't know. These are attached to this. So this is going to have to be sorted because I can't not use it. It's, you know. Oh, this actually tangled in here is a shoelace that I've been making. One of the committee members and the gentleman that plays our soldier, he also does alehouse stuff. He has broken his shoelaces. So I said to him that he wanted dark brown. So I said I would make some shoelaces. So this is a shoelace I've made him from my lucette fork. And that's out of the hand spun wool. So I need to keep that handy and give that to him when I next see him. But yes, I've got all sorts of random colours in here. Lots of random linen bags as well. One thing actually that I want to make myself, I do have some linen somewhere, which I haven't got out here. I've got some linen and I want to make myself a pocket. So women would have worn, we all wear like heavy woolen skirts, but they would have had a slit in the side of them, and inside women would have had like a pocket tied around their waist made of linen. Sometimes they'd be quite fancy and have embroidery and things on them. Other times they're just plain linen and really nothing special, but you'd have that hole inside at the side of your skirt so you could put your hand in, and this pocket could be huge, you know, and it would have everything in there that you would need. It was the same as men had them as well, but I really want to make myself a pocket that I can wear underneath my skirt. So this little linen bag here is my bag of tricks. This has got, and this has actually got some wool in it as well. But in here, I've also got a couple more of the pegs for my peg loom. And I've got all of my tablets for my tablet weaving. These are handmade. I mean, again, I can't really use these at the village because they're Viking themed. But I can use these at home and make belts at home, which I can take in to show off. I also have my little dressings tin here. This is not 17th century. I just love old tins. But in here, and this is another thing that I want to make. Actually, I started making one. Where is that? I don't know. It's called a housewife. Actually, there's various different languages. There's housewife in all sorts of languages, but basically it translates to a housewife, which is kind of just a material thing that opens like a corsetina fold, and you keep all your sewing stuff in it. I did start making one out of offcuts of linen that I had, but I don't know where they are at the moment. But I want that to keep all of my bits in. So currently I have this, which is just a random piece of linen, and in it are my needles. Let me angle you down a little bit. Sorry, I always put my hand over the camera when I angle you down. So this is what we would have had in our 17th century sewing kits. So ignore these two silver ones on the end because they're obviously modern ones, but this is what 17th century needles would have looked like. Now, they're very bulky and very cumbersome. But obviously, if you're working with sewing things onto wool, then these are perfect. But they're quite bulky if you're trying to do anything more intricate. But yes, they're my 17th century needles. And these are my 17th century pins. We would have had a lot of pins. Most things that we would have done, we would have, like my kerchief that I wear around my neck, that gets pinned in. These are handmade pins. That's what they would have looked like. So we always tend to keep, and you can get them in various sizes, we always tend to keep a supply of these. I've got them all over the place, so I need to go and gather up all of my pins. I've got some in the car and all sorts. So that is that. I think that's everything that's in my this little linen bag. Ooh, it's a £1 coin. Wow. See, it was worth going through all my stuff. Oh, it's another one. This is because our cans of drink at the shop are £1, I think. Or are they £2? They're £1, I think. So we always make sure, because I don't carry cash, so I always make sure I've got a couple of pounds on me so that if I run out of drink, I can go get one. Now this is interesting. So this is a nail binding needle made out of bone. And I got this from a Viking festival as well. I've tried nail binding a couple of times and not particularly successfully. But I find that with any new thing that I learn, I have to do it. I have to have a break and then go back to it and try and learn it again. And then eventually it will click. But yeah, this is my little nail binding needle. Again, they wouldn't have particularly bothered with nail binding in the 17th century because by that point things had moved on and they were using DPNs to do their knitting. But I like to learn all sorts of, crafts from back in the day. So that is why I wanted to learn nail binding. So I've got another little basket here. I don't actually think it's got anything in it. Oh, yes, it has. Right, so this, because I make a lot of braids and things like that, I asked our wood turner at the village if he could make me a spool that I could keep my all my braids and stuff on when I've made them, just to stop them becoming a big tangled mess. So this is what he made me. So yeah, that's handmade by our wood turner in the village. So I need to put all of my things on there. I have no idea why that's in there. Oh, here's some of my finger loopy braids. Oh, here's my lucette fork as well. Right, okay, so these here, these are all my finger looping braids that I've made in various colours, and they don't take much time at all. They really don't. But as you can see, these would have been used These are so useful. They would have been used for lacing up our bodices and all that kind of thing. This one's actually really long. But yeah, so these are the... don't care. But you can do all different kinds of patterns with these. But these are just really basic ones that I've done while demonstrating finger looping to people at the village. And yeah, as you can see, these are really long. That is obviously as long as my arm span was going to allow me to go. But yeah, there's my finger loop braids. So they need to go onto my spool. Oh, and I've got something on my lucette fork by the looks of it. So this is my lucette fork. Again, we sell these in the village. This is a perfect one for children to have a go at and what have you as well. And it's so easy. And I love doing this. I find it really therapeutic. So this is one that I'm doing with 3 colours. It's like a brown, yellow and green in there. It's quite a thick one. Not entirely sure. Again, it was probably just something I popped on there for demonstration purposes because I've cut it off. So it's not very long. So it obviously wasn't something that I was planning to use for anything in particular. But yeah, that's my lucette fork. So I just need to tie that off. And then that's another cord that I can use. Here are my scissors. Look, I've got a chocolate bar in here for emergencies. These are my scissors. So these are my 17th century scissors that I would use. Very sharp, and if they become blunt at all, then we just take them to the blacksmith and ask him to sharpen them. So yes, that's those. And this is my knife. Everybody in the village carries a knife, men and women. They attach to your apron or your belt, and they would be used for eating mainly. But mine has gone mouldy. It hasn't gone mouldy, it's gone rusty, sorry. So I need to get all that rust off, get a wire brush and get that off. But yeah, so this is my 17th century knife, which hangs off my belt all the time. And this would have been used for pretty much everything. Eating wise, you would only have a knife and a spoon. We didn't really have forks. So yeah, this has obviously got a bit wet, or I've put it away wet when I've cleaned it and it's gone rusty, but we can sort that out. That's absolutely fine. The other thing that everybody would have had, which I don't have, which I need to find, is a clay pipe. Everyone would have smoked, and they would have all had a clay pipe. So I need to get myself one of those as well. And that is pretty much everything I've got out to show you craft wise. The only other things that I got out to show you are books. So as I said at the beginning, a lot of my time, I think this season will be spent in the ale house. So I have got some books here, which are going to be absolutely invaluable, and I need to study them, and I need to pick out some recipes that I can use to make food for the ale house. So the ones that I got, they're all written by a man called Stuart Peachy. Now, I can probably put you up so that you can see my face now. Stuart Peachy was one of the original people involved in the making of Little Wooden Village. He was originally a Civil War reenactment person, and he was doing a reenactment, and some people came over to him from Gosport Council and reenactment group in Gosport and said, do you fancy putting on some sort of battle? And then he came to Gosport and he was like, well, we could actually make a building. And that was 40 years ago. And so Little Wooden was born. And since then we have added numerous buildings, and it's just a beautiful little village. So if it's something that's of interest to you, this time period and seeing how things were done in the 17th century, Stuart Peachy actually, after building Little Wooden, then purchased a farm on the border of Wales, and he called it the Green Valley, and it was a TV series which him and 4 other historians, one of them being Ruth Goodman, who does a lot of the Tudor and Victorian programs. They lived on this farm for a whole calendar year. They didn't actually sleep there. The council wouldn't let them sleep there, but they were pretty much living there for a whole calendar year, and were getting the farm back to how it would have been in the 17th century. I think theirs is based in 1640 something, and we're 1624, so it's about 20 years after our village. And you can get every single episode of this on YouTube. It's quite old now. They've all aged a lot, bless them. But yeah, it's called Tales from the Green Valley. And if you type that into YouTube, basically each episode was a month of the year. So they started off in September, I think it was. So episode 1 is September, episode 2 is October, and it goes through the whole year, and it tells you. It's so brilliant. It's all of us love it in the village. It's like our go-to program. We all watch it every year before the village opens. And yeah, it's just brilliant. Now, when I went into my local library, I found this book, which is written by Stuart Peachey, and it's basically the the building of the Green Valley. So it's to go along with the series Tales from the Green Valley that he did. But chapter 1, let me just show you this. Chapter 1 is Little Woodham Gosport. And that is my village. And this is the story of how they started off building that village. And then it goes on to when they moved to the farm in Wales, which you can still go and visit now, actually. And we are arranging a visit this year. We're going to get a coach, and all the villagers are going to go to the Green Valley on the Welsh border and go and see it in real life. But yeah, definitely go and watch that on YouTube. It's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, this book, by the way, is ridiculously expensive to buy. So I'm treating it like it's actually made of gold. It's just like literally £150 to buy secondhand. Crazy. But anyway, so Stuart Peachey also has written loads of these kind of food books and life books and everything. And I aim to collect most of them. But these are the ones I've got so far. So I've got Cooking Techniques and Equipment 1580 to 1660 Volume 1 by Stuart Peachey. So that is going to tell me all about the pots, the pans, any kind of cooking equipment that they used and how they used it. So I really need to look at that and see what ones, if we don't have them, what can we have? So we've got a bread oven, which is brilliant. I want to start using that. That doesn't get used an awful lot. But I also have asked our blacksmith to make me a spit, because they would have had a spit in front of the fire that would have been roasting meat. So just little things like that. I need to go through this book and have a look what else we can get or do to make it look more authentic. The next one that I've got is tarts, Florentines and kickshaws. So this is something that I can make these at home the day before and take these into the village already made up. It's surprising how many of these recipes I've had a flick through. Lots of them contain rose water. So I need to get some rose water. The next one is cakes, cheesecakes and pancakes. Clearly I've got all the important ones, cakes, tarts, puddings. So yes, that one, again, just things that I can make at home, but also I can do these in the bread oven at the village. The way that it works, and it tells you in the Tales of the Green Valley, they get the bread oven up to temperature. The first thing you would cook would be your bread, and then once your bread's cooked, there's still warmth in there, so you would then put in cakes or something that takes slightly less heat and less time to cook. So they would plan all of their stuff. They'd have it all made up, and they would plan it how it was going to go in and out of the bread oven. Absolutely fantastic. So my next one is bread. White bread wasn't a thing. It wasn't. It took more effort to mill flour for white bread. It would have been more like so if you go into the supermarket and you see rye bread, like the really dense, dark brown bread, that is what it would have been. But yeah, that's it was a staple. Everybody would have eaten bread. It was the thing. It was what filled them up the most. It was what they had bread every single day, fresh bread. And the last one that I've got is bread making equipment and ingredients. So yeah, what I want to do, my aim is to make bread in the village and demonstrate bread making. I also want to do the dairy. So I want to learn to churn butter and all cream and those kind of things, because that is something that I remember most as a child, is going there and seeing the ladies making butter, churning butter. We've got loads of butter churns at the village. So yeah, that is my aim. So on the list of things that I need to learn before, or as the village opens, before the village opens, I need to learn how to bake things in the ale house. I need to learn exactly what foods would have been in season at what times, and I need to just learn everything I possibly can about food and cooking techniques in the village. That is my main thing that I want to learn. The other thing that I want to learn, I don't have anything here to show you, but it's on order. It hasn't arrived yet, but I have ordered a kit from Etsy to make Dorset buttons. Now, Dorset buttons only kind of started around 1620, so they would have been a fairly new thing for us in 1642. And they weren't made with the rings, as far as I can tell. They were made with like discs of sheep horn. But I really want to learn how to make buttons, because again, it's a really small little craft that I can do while sitting in the ale house after everything's finished and cleaned away. I can sit there button making, I can sit there spinning wool, and I can sit there using my lucette fork or doing finger braiding. So that is kind of the crafts. Also embroidery. I keep saying that I want to learn embroidery. I have this amazing book which a lady gave me about crewel embroidery. So that was one of the things that was around at that time, was crewel embroidery. CREWEL. I would really love to learn properly to embroider. I can do basics of embroidery, but it's something they definitely would have been doing. And cross stitch, actually, believe it or not, cross stitch was around in the 17th century. But I just need to do a little bit more research into all of those kind of things. So I need to learn about the food, the cooking, and all that kind of thing. I need to learn other little crafts that I can do in the village. So I need to keep up with my spinning. I want to learn button making, and I want to do learn some around embroidery. The things that I need to make for the village, I need to make myself a seat cover from my peg loom. I need to make myself some cords for my hair braiding. And I will just continue. Oh, and I need to take that knitting off my DPNs, and I need to cast on a Rylan stocking, a hose, so that I can sit there knitting stockings properly in the village rather than just guesswork. The other thing that I need to do, I'll just continue to make belts at home and take them in as examples. I need to get some of this wool carded as well. My carders are just like cheap dog brushes. They're nothing special. We do have proper carders, big carders at the village. But yeah, for doing it at home, I've just got little dog brushes, which work just fine. I need to wash my coif. I need to wash my coif. And I need to finish my Tudor hose, which if you watch my other videos, I am knitting Tudor hose as part of my 12 cast-ons. Again, I can't take those into the village to do because they're on 9-inch circulars. However, I do need to get going with them because I really want to wear them. I think that is about it for going through all my stuff. I don't think there's really anything that I need to buy, although actually I would like to buy some DK weight wool, because for the band weaving and the belt making, I think DK wool is better. I've been using sport weight and it just makes for a very thin belt that doesn't look particularly fancy. And also I'd like to make trims for like people's clothing, like round their sleeves and stuff like that, and round their hats and what have you. They would have had these little tablet woven belts. They would have likely have been done in linen. So I do need to get some linen thread to make smaller belts. What else? I think that's probably about it to start me off with. So I shall write all that down when I'm editing this video, and then that gives me a better, I know what I've got to work towards. And then I need to sit down and untangle some of this wool and get everything wound onto my bobbin that I've got for these kind of things. yeah, that's about it. So I hope that you've enjoyed that, looking at my crafts. I know a few of you said to me that you'd be interested in seeing it. Like I said, I will do demonstrations on all of these, but I think we'll make it a series because this video is already going to be long. So I will do individual things. We'll do some cooking, 17th century cooking together. We'll do, you'll see me make my seat cover. Yeah, all these, I'll do separate videos for all the different crafts when I am making things. But yes, I really appreciate you being here. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let me know if there's anything that you would particularly like to see or anything that you would like to know. I did do a walk around the village at the end of one of my other videos. But I will do, now that the season is beginning, I will do a lot more filming when I'm at the village. I'll put in some photos actually. Of me in my garms. I've got a couple of pictures of me sat in various places in the village, so I'll put a couple of photos up for you so you can see what I look like in all my glory. Oh, and the other thing that I need to make, which I'm definitely not going to get done by the time the village opens, or that I need to find, and I don't know where they are actually, they might be at the village already, but I wear fingerless gloves. Because obviously I cannot have these tattoos on display, because even though tattoos were a thing, not like this, these would not have been a thing. So I do wear fingerless gloves. However, I want to make myself some that cover these ones as well. I very rarely get questioned on my tattoos. There's only been one or two occasions where people have asked me about my tattoos, and my response is, well, I did get kidnapped by Barber pirates when I went to the fish market in Portsmouth Harbour one time, but I'd rather not discuss it, Master. It's very, very upsetting for me. And then they go, so yeah, that's kind of what I say if anyone ever does mention them, but very rarely do they. I think they understand, most people understand that when they come there, that we are reenactors and, we are actual, real, genuine 21st century people outside of the village. So yeah, but I would like to make some gloves eventually that are long that I was thinking if they were like the hand warmer type ones, I could have them up here if there's people around, but then when there's no one around, then I could kind of roll them down. So that my hands are free, because things like washing up, obviously I can't have gloves on for. And if I'm making bread, then I can't really have gloves on for it. I don't know. We'll see. But yes, anyway, that is it. I'm going to go and I'm going to clear up this mess before the children get home, because there is a lot of mess here. And yes, keep your eyes out for more videos on my heritage crafts. Like I said, let me know what you would like to see, if you'd like any more information about anything, and I will try my best to help you. If I don't know the answer, I know a lot of people, very knowledgeable people in the village, that absolutely will know the answers. So thank you very much. You are all amazing. Take care of yourselves and keep crafting fun. Bye.